Good morning, grandkids. Today we're going to read Book 4 of the Wolf Queen series. And remember all the intrigue that's going on? She wants her new baby son to become king, and now she's even working on maybe getting her husband's other son ousted from becoming emperor, and she wants everything for herself, and she's being very manipulative behind the scenes, placing false evidence, leaving notes that are untrue. So let's see what she's coming up with today. 10 years after being crowned Emperor of Tamriel, Antiochus Septim had impressed his subjects with little but the enormity of his lust for carnal pleasures. By his second wife, Gacilla, he had a daughter in the year of 104, who he named Kintyra, after his great-great-great-grand-aunt, the Empress. Enormously fat and marked by every venereal disease known to the healers, Antiochus spent little time on politics. His siblings, by marked contrast, excelled in this field, in politics. Magnus had married Helena, the Cyrodiil queen of Lilmuth, the Argonian priest king having been executed, and was representing the imperial interests in Blackmarsh admirably. Sepphoris and his wife Bianchi were ruling the Hammerfell kingdom of Ghislaine with a healthy brood of children, but no one was more politically active than Potima, the wolf queen of the Skyrim kingdom of solitude. 9 years after the death of her husband, King Mantiarco, Potima still ruled as regent for her young son, Uriel. So this is one of the main reasons that she's working things out so that her little young son can become king, is because she really wants to rule. And as long as he's a child, she will be ruling on his behalf. And I can hardly wait to see what happens when he grows up. Their court had become very fashionable, particularly for rulers who had a grudge to bear against the emperor. All the kings of and the emperor, I said, was the other son of her. That's not who it was. All the kings of Skyrim visited Castle Solitude regularly, and over the years, emissaries from the lands of Morrowind and High Rock did as well. Some guests came from even farther away. Potima stood at the harbor and watched the boat from Pandonia arrive, and against the gray breaking waves where she had seen so many vessels of Tamrielic manufacture, it looked less than exotic. Insectoid, certainly, with its membranous sails and rugged chitin hull, but she had seen similar, if not identical, seacraft in Morrowind. No, if not for the flag, which was markedly alien, she would not have picked out the ship from others in the harbor. As the salty mist ballooned around her, she held out her hand in welcome to the visitors from another island empire. The men aboard were not merely pale, they were entirely colorless, as if their flesh were made of some white, limpid jelly. Yuck. But she had been forewarned. At the arrival of the king and his translator, she looked directly into their blank eyes and offered her hand. The king made noises. "Who is this supposed to be? What kind of race is this? His Great Majesty, King Orgnum, said the translator, expresses his delight at your beauty. He thanks you for giving him refuge from these dangerous seas. You speak Cyrodiilic very well, said Fatima. I am fluent in the languages of 4 continents, said the translator. I can speak to the denizens of my own country, Pandonia, as well as those of Atmora, Akavir, and here in Tamriel. Yours is the easiest, actually. I was looking forward to this voyage. Please tell His Highness that he is welcome here, and that I am entirely at his disposal, said Fatima, smiling. Then she added, you understand the context, that I'm just being polite. In other words, she's not entirely at his disposal. Mercy. Of course, said the translator, and then made several noises at the king, which the king reacted to with a smile. While they conversed, Fatima looked up the dock and saw the now familiar gray cloaks watching her while they spoke with Levlet, Antiochus's man. Antiochus is the emperor. The Sigic order from the Somerset Isle. Very bothersome. My diplomatic emissary, Lord Vulcan, will show you to your rooms, said Fatima. Unfortunately, I have some other guests as well who require my attention. I hope your Great Majesty understands. What is he here for? I wish I could see what he looks like. His Great Majesty King Orgnum did understand, and Fatima made arrangements to dine with the Pendonians that evening. I wonder how they eat. Meeting with the Sigic order required all of her concentration. She dressed in her simplest black and gold robe and went to her stateroom to prepare. Her son, Uriel, was on the throne playing with his pet, Jogat. So as a child, he gets to sit on the throne. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, darling, said Fatima, lifting her son in the air with feigned strain. Talos, but you're heavy. I don't think I've ever carried such a heavy 10-year-old. You shouldn't be carrying a 10-year-old anyway. That's probably because I'm 11, said Uriel. Oh, God, that's even worse, said Uriel, perfectly aware of his mother's tricks. Unless he's crippled. And you're going to say that as an 11-year-old, I should probably be with my tutor. I was fanatical about studying at your age, said Fatima. I am king, said Uriel petulantly. But don't be satisfied with that, said Fatima. By all rights, you should be emperor already. You understand that, don't you? Uriel nodded his head. Fatima took a moment to marvel at his likeness to the portraits of Tiber Septim. The same ruthless brow and powerful chin. When he was older and lost his baby fat, he'd be a spitting image of his great-great-great-great-granduncle. Behind her, she heard the door opening and an usher bringing in several gray cloaks. She stiffened slightly, and Uriel, on cue, jumped down from the throne and left the stateroom, pausing to greet the most important of the Sigics. Good morning, Master Clarius, he said, enunciating each syllable with a regal accent that made Fatima's heart soar. I hope your accommodations at Castle Solitude meet with your approval. They did, King Uriel. Thank you, said Celeris, delighted and charmed. Celeris and his Sigics entered the chamber, and the door was shut behind them. Fatima sat only for a moment on the throne. Of course she did. I'm surprised she didn't stay there. Before stepping off the dais and greeting her guests, I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting, said Fatima. To think that you sailed all the way from the Somerset Isles and I should keep you waiting any longer. You must forgive me. It's not all that long a voyage, said one of the gray cloaks angrily. It isn't as easy as if we sailed all the way from Pandonia. Ah, you've seen my most recent guest, King Orgnum and his retinue, said Fatima breezily. I suppose you think it unusual, me entertaining them. As we all know, the Pandonians mean to invade Tamriel. Ooh. You are, I take it, as neutral in this as you are in all political matters? Of course, said Solaris proudly. We have nothing to gain or lose by the invasion. The Sigil Order preceded the organization of Tamriel under the Septim dynasty, and we shall survive under any political regime. Rather like a flea on whatever mongrel happens along, are you? Said Fatima, narrowing her eyes. Don't overestimate your importance, Solarius. Your orders, child. The Mages Guild has twice the power you have, and they are entirely on my side. We are in the process of making an agreement with King Orgnum. When the Pandonians take over, and I am in my proper place as Empress of this continent, then you shall know your proper place in the order of things. See, she's planning. She wants to be Empress, the total ruler. With a majestic stride, Fatima left the stateroom, leaving the gray cloaks to look from one to the other. We must speak to Lord Levelet, said one of the gray cloaks. Yes, said Solaris, perhaps we should. Levelet was quickly found at his usual place at the Moon and Nausea Tavern. I love that. The Moon and Nausea Tavern. You go in and get drunk, throw up. As the three gray cloaks entered, led by Solarius, the smoke and noise seemed to die in their path. Even the smell of tobacco and flint dissipated in their wake. He rose and then escorted them to a small room upstairs. You've reconsidered, said Levelet with a broad smile. Your emperor, said Solaris, and then corrected himself. Our emperor originally asked for our support in defending the west coast of Tamriel from the Pandonian fleet in return for 12 million gold pieces. We offered our services at 50. Upon reflection on the dangers that a Pandonian invasion would have, we accepted his earlier offer. The Mages Guild has generously what? Perhaps for us low... I can't read this morning, grandkids. I'm sorry. Perhaps for as low 10 million gold pieces, said Solarius quickly. Over the course of dinner, Fatima promised King Orgnum, through the interpreter, to lead an insurrection against her brother. Antiochus. It is her brother. No. Antiochus is her brother? She was delighted to discover that her capacity for lying worked in many different cultures. Fatima shared her bed that night with King Orgnum. Oh my God. As it seemed the polite and diplomatic thing to do. As it turned out, he was one of the better lovers she had ever had. Oh my God. He gave her some herbs before beginning that made her feel as if she was floating on the surface of time, conscious only of the gestures of love after she had found herself making them. She felt herself like the cooling mist quenching the fire of his lust over and over and over again. In the morning, when he kissed her on the cheek and said with his bald white eyes that he was leaving her, she felt a stab of regret. The ship left harbor that morning en route to the Somerset Isles in the imminent invasions. She waved them off to sea as she heard footsteps behind her. It was Levlet. "They will do it for 8 million, Your Highness," he said. "Thank Mara," said Fatima. "I need more time for an insurrection. Pay them from my treasury." That's the Siji's. She's working both ends against the middle. "And then go to the imperial city and get the 12 million from Antiochus. We should make a good profit from this game, and you, of course, will have your share." 3 months later, Fatima heard that the fleet of the Bandoliers had been utterly destroyed by a storm that had appeared suddenly off the Isle of Artium, the home port of the Sijig order. King Orgnum and all of his ships had been utterly annihilated. "Sometimes making people hate you," she said, holding her son Uriel close, "is how you make a profit." Oh my God. What a woman. And there she is teaching her young son this stuff. Do you think, do you know the canon, the lore? Does she become emperor? Surely not. I can hardly wait to find out what becomes of her and of Uriel and what happens. Okay, we'll read book number 5 next Friday. I will see you then. Take care, be careful, be kind to one another. I'll see you next Friday. Bye-bye, grandkids.